Silly Stories About Vegetables, Books 1 to 4. Written by Paul Cook and narrated by Paul Cook. Copyright 2018 by Paul Cook.
Guía simple a la feminización de Mistress Didi. Narrado por Ernesto Tissot.
A stick of rhubarb. A stick of rhubarb is a lovely thing, especially with custard or in a crumble. One day, a stick of rhubarb decided to take a walk down a lane for no other reason than, perhaps, a stick of rhubarb had never gone for a walk down a lane before. This particular rhubarb was bright purple, as most sticks of rhubarb are. It was thin, slightly bent, and had a big sprig of green leaves sprouting from its head. The cows in the field by the lane just stood still and looked at the rhubarb as though it was bonkers as it hopped by. Bonk, bonk, bonk. The rhubarb kept on hopping until it suddenly slipped over in a sloppy pile of mucky sludge. Splat! The rhubarb was covered in muck from head to toe. It just lay there on the lane, and a baby rabbit popped up out of a hole and took a crunchy bite out of the rhubarb's leaves. Munch. The rhubarb jumped back up again, and the rabbit hopped back down the hole quicker than a mouse being chased by a squashed tomato. Halfway down the lane, the rhubarb came across a cattle grid. It couldn't get over the cattle grid because it knew that no matter how hard it tried, it would probably slip between the bars and end up in the puddle of dirty water below with a big sloppy splosh. A drain was nearby, and the rhubarb listened to the water at the bottom of it gurgling like a busted-up old washing machine. Then suddenly, a fat, wobbly, hard-boiled egg rolled out of the hedge and plopped into the ditch. The egg, who was called Egg, crawled out of the ditch, stopped and looked at the rhubarb, who in turn stared back and rolled up to the cattle grid. It decided it couldn't get over, and so it wobbled back into the hedge. The rhubarb thought how rude the egg had been not to stop and chat, but then, suddenly, the egg slipped out of the hedge on the other side of the cattle grid. It stared at the rhubarb and said, "Squibble blodge a bleesh blonk blog squodge plop." The rhubarb agreed with what the egg had said. Almost immediately, a big jeep drove by and squished the egg. Blursh, splat! The rhubarb thought what a lovely egg had been, and what a poor egg he was for being squished into a gooey splodge. After that, the rhubarb headed on back to the vegetable patch where he had always been while he was growing up in the soil, and had a sleep. A dog chasing a duck woke the rhubarb up the next morning as it crashed into a bucket full of purple paint. The paint went everywhere, and the farmer chased the dog away, shouting loudly and waving angrily with his paintbrush. The dog left a trail of purple paw prints on the farmyard as it scampered away into the field. Later that morning, the rhubarb chatted with a couple of radishes, and was then picked from the ground by the farmer in the afternoon. Nobody has heard of the rhubarb since. Then, somewhere in a barn nearby, a pig did a big poo. Oh well. The end.
¿Por qué escribí este libro? Este libro nació como respuesta a las muchas preguntas que recibo a diario de varios hombres que han tomado el camino hacia la feminización. Me han hecho muchas preguntas sobre el tema, ya que comprensiblemente los que se embarcan en este viaje a veces están confundidos e inseguros en cuanto a cuáles son los pasos que los van a hacer avanzar más rápidamente en su camino elegido. Como resultado, he elaborado esta sencilla guía de feminización para iniciarte de lleno y sacar a la mariquita en ti con pasos fáciles de seguir que puedes implementar rápidamente y conseguir resultados. Mientras que ponerse un atuendo rosa y unos zapatos del mismo color podría ser una forma fácil de empezar, vale la pena echar un vistazo más de cerca a los muchos detalles que van a lograr un aspecto femenino creíble y estéticamente agradable del cual puedas estar orgulloso de llevar.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?